Okay, so we founded Animation Israel. The mission of Animation Israel is really an economic and creative growth organization for Israel, for Israelis in the animation world, so that we can be real players on the international stage. And I say we, and because I am Canadian, American, and Israeli, I hold lots of passports, but I'm based in Los Angeles, trying to really bring the international part to Israel and Israel to the international arena. And Amit, as most of you know, is based in Tel Aviv with his kind of finger on the pulse of what are the wants and needs and the skills and the gaps with the Israeli creative community. Animation Israel was founded about 1.5 years ago. Our first event was bringing Butch Hartman after his 20-year tenure at Nickelodeon to run our first masterclass in Israel. I know that some of you were able to attend. Since then, we've done events with Makor. We ran an international introduction series, which we brought, unfortunately by way of Zoom, but we brought Shaftesbury from Canada, Wild Brain from the UK, and Disney TV Animation and Disney Junior from Los Angeles to discuss kind of how and when in the process to pitch to them. From that, Animation Israel opened its first open call for submissions, and we got some really great ideas, but what we kept getting back to was it seemed like there were great ideas, but there was a lack of understanding for how to package those ideas so they would be commercially viable and they would actually be sellable on the world market. So with that, we discussed with Panina and Anat CoPro how we could put together a lecture series to give the Israeli creative community the tools to be able to package their ideas and actually be able to market them for either sales to broadcasters or to be attractive to international studios for co-production possibilities. So that's where this series came from. My lecture is going to be an overview of what goes into a pitch deck. These items stand true whether or not you're pitching primetime animation like The Simpsons, whether you're pitching 6 to 11 animation, or whether you're pitching a bridge show like a 6 to 9 show, or a preschool 2 to 3 or 3 to 6, or even a baby show. For animation, TV pitching, these are the standards, and I'm gonna pop into how we get to them. Just so you know, I've been in this industry for about 12 years now. I was introduced to this industry. I'm a published author and illustrator, and the producer of Shrek, which I didn't know is Shrek means fear in Yiddish. It's an old school Yiddish story. It was essentially made mainstream, and I have a set of Yiddish inspired picture books, and the producer Shrek took a liking to them, and we went through the process of how to do a spin-off that would make those commercially viable for mainstream audiences. So he actually walked me through kind of, these are the components of the pitch deck, and that is the kind of information I'm going to give to you right now. The examples I'll be using is from a preschool show that I have currently in the market, so please no screenshots, but I just wanted to walk you through the journey for this one particular show. All shows have different journeys, but I want to walk you through the journey for this show and see what you can glean to it. And yes, I'd love to have your questions at the end. So, sorry, one moment. Okay, so this is a pitch inside scoop. So what really goes in it? Here's the how-to. The items we're gonna go over a little bit about my personal journey with this, but you'll see with each show it has its own. Concept art, do we need it or do we not? I know that a lot of times you have a great writer or a great animator, and the ability to partner and have great writing and great art is really gonna be the key to your success. Go over a one sheet, what is it, as well as an overview for your pitch decks. Taglines, what are they, where do you use them? Same with elevator pitches. World creation and character development. These are two topics that Carolyn Hay and Andrew Saveston will be diving deeper into for next week on Wednesday. Carolyn and Andrew are amazing. If you can get to their sessions, the next 2 weeks, they will be covering word creation and character development, and a deeper dive also to show structure and story sustainability. Carolyn is attached to more than one of my shows, and she was kind enough to introduce me to Andrew as well. They have written on pretty much every animated show that you or your kids have watched for the last 15, 20 years. Curriculum, when you need it and when you don't. Same with music, transmedia and toys. Transmedia meaning really any apps, games, any digital spin-offs, and then where your contact information goes. It's going to be very high level. Let's jump into it. Sorry. Apologies, I'm in the wrong version and it's not letting me click through. Give me one moment, please.
I might say in the meantime, until Anne-Marie finds her project presentation, we will try answering all the questions throughout, but these kinds of questions that we're starting to get are essentially part of the distribution and more of the financial aspect. So we will discuss that maybe later down the line. But please feel free to write whatever you need, any questions you might come to mind, and we'll get back to that.
Okay, I actually cannot see my whole screen. Hold on, here we go. There. Okay, so like I said, the journey is different for each show, but the key pitch components are needed throughout every show's evolution. So I'm gonna go, you know what, it's not, I think what's happening is this, there's functionality in PowerPoint that Zoom doesn't let me do. 1 second. Yeah, I have to go to a different version, pardon me. I mean, talk.
Hello, my honey. Hello, my baby.
Did anybody sing? Anybody does a good job of singing?
No. But I'll maybe start by saying that there are a lot of terms that I saw that Anne-Marie is using that I would essentially, from someone who doesn't maybe know what are these terms, like for example, 6 to 11 or curriculum or music everyone knows, but there are parts that might come to mind that you don't know. So feel free to ask about them as well. So for example, when she mentioned that she has the experience, or we are going to go over the whole 6 to 11, and she said about preschool, those are the target audiences. Those are the age groups that we're talking about when it comes to TV shows and TV series for kids. Another thing that she mentioned was curriculum. Curriculum is something that she will touch on later down in her presentation, but that is more towards the idea of education, the education part of the show. I'm trying to also read, is the information given in this lecture same as the animated feature films? Essentially, there are parts, but it's not that. This is more of a TV series, I would say deck, Bible that you're creating. But there are aspects of this, and a lot of these throughout the different sessions will have elements that will touch on feature content. So for example, yes, you will need to understand how to develop your characters and design your characters, but it goes into different kinds of audiences or targets. So less when it comes to the feature film.
Okay, we're back. Apologies, I built this deck as a PowerPoint that had animation in it that built on itself. And apparently when I share Zoom, it doesn't allow those builds. So you'll just have to watch the little cursor as I go. So this show I'm gonna refer to was originally called Mischief, and it starred this girl, Mika, and her hamster, Mo. They lived in like a normal world, like a normal animated world. Something would happen in that world, and they would essentially dive into a felt world. They would become felt versions of themselves, learn whatever they needed to learn or solve what they needed to solve in that, and then go back to their original world. It's like a very traditional kind of portal show to use what they learned. For example, they'd be baking a cake in the original world and the blender explodes and they need more coconut. So they dive into the felt world where they're in a jungle. So they're in a world where it's not easily accessible from their daily life. And they have to like barter with this monkey for a coconut, and they finally get this coconut and then they can come back and finish making the cake. So it was a back and forth, but it starred a girl named Mika, a hamster named Mo, a super fearless go-getter girl, and a timid hamster in a felt world. And it was called Mischief, and it's called Mischief because they got this skill every time. So it might be a skill where she becomes like the chief detective, or she becomes the chief of police, but she becomes something where she gains a skill and then she goes back to her world. So the title Mischief, people either loved it or hated it. And then also the word chief, at least in North America, despite there being like the chief corporate officer, the chief of staff was used everywhere, it still tends to, this day and age, people think it can have racist connotations in terms of cultural appropriation of the native people here. So chief got axed, and so we ended up calling it just straight up Mika and Mo. As you can see, it went from a 2D look to a 3D look. Things it did keep, it for sure kept that it was a girl-led property, that it was a very excited girl, and it kept that it was her with her hamster, and it kept that it was felt. And then I'm not sure how much you can see over there, but it was she's intentionally not white. It's what we call in Hollywood as ethnically ambiguous. So she's not black, not white. You just don't really know what she is. Her hair could be dreadlocks. It could just be pink fluff. So the things that I for sure wanted to keep was the names of the characters, that they were felt, and the girl and hamster, and that she wasn't white. Because honestly, there's an element of write what you know. I'm married to a very brown Israeli, half Moroccan, half Libyan, and my kids aren't white, and she's modeled off of one of mine. So that was the journey for the actual idea. And then the pitch deck itself also had a journey. It had the original Mischief pitch deck, which I put together with concept art. My background is writing, so the art I actually paid for. So that is something we'll go into in a minute. But once I signed with Big Jump Studio in Canada, they took over the art, and I essentially had an art director role. But I was no longer the one, I was not trying to actually draw it. Even within that, their pitch started out, or our pitch together started out as a 2D deck. It evolved into a 3D CGI looking deck. And then its last iteration, based on feedback from broadcasters, and kind of styles have changed over the years. This has been in different phases for about 3.5 years. They got pupils, so that apparently kids relate better to characters with pupils. And also the shape and the amount of information in the deck changed. It actually got reduced because at this point we were pitching to people who had already had a background on the show. So they just want to see, okay, where else could we take it? So the journey could change in terms of the content of the show, but also in terms of the display and your partners in it. Again, I started on my own. Big Jump came on board. Big Jump also brought Carolyn Hay on board, right? And I'll get into that more in a second. So in terms of concept art, everyone's heard a picture's 1,000 words. I would not even think to go out to try to pitch animation without art. So whether it's the art that you can do yourself, whether it's art that you can partner with someone and share the IP on, the intellectual property, share the rights with them and share the project with them, whether it's art that you purchase or whether it's art that you essentially steal. Oh, this background is clip art out of Google. I just want to say, okay, this is what a felt playmat looks like. When they jump into this felt world, they kind of land in each of these buildings. I want to have some sort of a visual aid. That if you are getting concept art from someone else, not you, a bit of advice, make sure you have a contract with that person and you own the art. So either they're a partner on your project and you are doing this together and sharing your project, right? And that's one way of handling it, or you are purchasing concept art. If you purchase it, make sure it is clear that for the fee, you own the art. So these cute little figures for Mika and Mo, I own them, but I did not make them. Adobe. So quickly into one sheet and overview. First off, the overview essentially is the one sheet in your deck. So what is the one sheet and when do you use it? So first over, let's go through the one sheet. One sheet is almost like, the front of a one sheet is almost like a movie poster. Think of your favorite movie. It's got the title, it's got the characters, it's got who made it or who's starring in it. So in this case, it's created by me, developed for television by Carolyn.ha. So Carolyn, like I said, is a big name writer in this industry. So having her, not just as her talent set, but also having her name attached helped to move the project forward. Also on your one sheet, you have your tagline, which I'll get into in a little bit, but it's just a quick thing that lets you know what's the tone and sensibility of the show. The bottom here, we have the logo of our studio partner. If you have multiple studio partners, you have multiple logos. The bottom, it says that it's preschool, and for a second, we'll talk about that. The definition of preschool in North America, or at least actually really in all of animation, is not necessarily the preschool that you think about in terms of your kids' ages and when they go to school. So preschool here, there's essentially like straight preschool, which is pretty much 3 to 6 years old. There's upper preschool, which some places do and some don't, what could be like more 5 to 7. I mean, 7 is like 2nd or 3rd grade by now. They're not in preschool, but this is the terminology. There's baby, which is up to 2 years old. So there's different ages. The length of the shows is very important to put on and how many episodes. So here it says 52 11-minute episodes. The way TV is made is, sorry, I can't get rid of this thing, is it scheduled in half-hour blocks. A half-hour block is not really a half-hour block, it's a 22-minute block. And this is not the same for streaming platforms, even though sometimes they make their content so it can also be traditionally broadcast. But if you're looking to get onto, you know, CBC or Disney or Nickelodeon, then this half-hour format is the way to go. That being said, for prime time, 22 minutes is fine. For preschool at this point, 11 minutes is probably the longest that you're gonna do. And they need to do it for 26 half hours, which converts into 52 11 minutes. So you'd put how many episodes and the length of them on here. On the back side of the one sheet, I always put something introducing my characters very lightly. The bottom sentence is like a very quick, fun summary sentence. And then this middle area is a little bit about the show. You might have a couple of examples of episodes. It's what they do, it's what they don't do. If there's a learn, it has a bit of the dynamics between the characters, a bit about the world, and that's it. It's a quick overview where someone can take this and look at it and ask for more. A lot of times, you don't necessarily want to bombard broadcasters like, hey, here's my 25-page pitch deck. And also, you might not want to put in that level of time and energy and resources to create that pitch deck. So this is a good way to test the waters with your relationships. Say, hey, this is what I have. Would you like to see more? That being said, at this point, I don't do one sheets anymore. A lot of people in the industry do. I don't. I go straight to the pitch deck. If I have an idea, I believe in my idea, I go to the pitch deck. But these two front pages, this is still the front page, and this is still essentially page 2 of the pitch deck. One thing to keep in mind for everything you do for this pitch deck, whether it's the way you're writing, the vocabulary you're using, the punctuation you're using, the slang you're using, in the art, the color palette, the shape of your characters. There's how many words you have on the page. Is that your look and feel and your tone must match the heart, the core, the soul, whatever you want to call it, of your show. It must match it. Like in this, without even reading a word, you know that this girl is ready for an adventure. She's got a dinosaur on her shirt and little running shoes, and her arms are moving, right? You got a balloon flying away, you know, and you know it's preschool by the palette, and it's hard to see on the screen, but the whole deck is texturized, so you know it's felt. There are things that you know without having read a word. And then also in the way the words are written, you know that this is a fast-paced, silly, foible-filled show. So keep in mind with everything you do to present your show, whether it's look, feel, verbiage, that it's consistent with the tone, the moral, the message, the ideology, it's just the feeling of your show. So taglines. So taglines, again, it's on the first page of either your one sheet or of your pitch deck. It catches the essence of your show. It's catchy, it's memorable, and it's a few words for quick pitching. So the Mika and Mo taglines changed a few times, but I really like this particular one. If you're fearless and made of felt, you're gonna find yourself in some pretty sticky situations. So what do we already know from these words? We haven't read any of the deck. We're like, we just saw the picture and read these words. We know that it's fast. We know it's adventurous. We know that it's exciting. We know that it's foible filled, which means it's gonna be funny, right? There are accidents happening. We know that the world is felt, so that big risks are inherently okay, and it's pliable. You can change the world, you can innovate. And this particular product, I think, screams toys. Like it's, you wanna go touch it. These feel like they're dolls. All of that is from 14 words. That's what a tagline is. A tagline often could be 5 words, not 14. This is actually a fairly long tagline. Building from taglines, we have the elevator pitch. This is more a sentence or two description. This is for chance or short meetings. It's called the elevator pitch because you're really supposed to picture yourself. You have a moment in an elevator with an exec or the head of a studio or this great writer who you want to have attached to your show, or this great, designer, and you have a minute to to kind of share yourself. So after you kind of ask them how they are and ask them, hey, can I share my show with you for a minute? And here's an example, and I'll kind of tell you how I would stop along the way, because this is a long example and I often don't get to the end of it, but I have it memorized in my head. So Mika and Mo stars a fearless girl and her loyal but timid best friend hamster as they repurpose their felt Lego world to tackle their latest adventure. At that point, someone may already tell me, hey, Anne-Marie, we're not doing preschool, or hey, we're not doing any girl-led right now. We're looking all for essentially gender neutral or gender agnostic shows, or we're only doing boy, or like I could get 100 responses, and then I would just stop. If it looks like they're engaged, then I can get more into it. And it's important to be excited when you do your elevator pitches, like that because this is your show, this is your show time. Sometimes this is all you get. This loving odd couple recobbles their swing set into a rocket ship to rescue the stars, and their bubble wands into a giraffe so that Mika can bargain with a monkey for the last coconut. Mika and Mo is fast, funny, one-of-a-kind kid innovation where getting stuck and unstuck together is all in a day's play. At that point, I would ask, can I send you my one sheet? Or is there someone at your studio or your network who I could talk to and discuss this further? So this could be a conversation in an elevator. It could be standing in line for coffee at a conference, or everyone's standing there, where you just have a couple of minutes with someone, or at the bar, or at a networking event. So having an elevator pitch is very important to selling your show. And for you, honestly, for you knowing your show. So I'm going to jump into the world. So the world is where the show takes place for the characters to interact. It's pretty simple concept, but it needs to be different and specific to your show. So there are some key questions for world creation, and I'm sure we'll get into more of these when next week with Carolyn and Andrew. But why is this world unique? Why this world for your show? Why do you need this world for the stories you are telling? And like I just said, why is this world unique? Why must it be animated? So this is a big one. A lot of times I see shows being pitched for animation, including I have one of these where people are saying, hey, this show could be animated or live action. I'm not really sure, right? It has to be very clear in your head why the show needs to be animated. Is it make believe? Are they in inaccessible places or times? Do they do stunts? Is everything made of felt? Like, is there a reason why this has to be animated? And more than just say, oh, it's preschool, so it should be animated, right? How will the world help generate stories? Does this world have obstacles in it? Does it have solutions in it? Does it provide a grounds for exploration? Is it a fantasy place? Like, why is this world going to help, generate stories? The idea is that in a perfect world, no pun intended, you get multiple seasons, right? Once you have multiple seasons, it's a lot to depend on your characters to just have unique interactions each time. If the world can play somewhat as a character and help generate those interactions, those episodes, you're going to have a lot easier of a time. So for example, the Mika and Mo world, the felt world, since it's changeable, and this is a show about innovative thinking. It's delivered through play, which is appropriate for the age group, and encourages risk-taking since it's soft, and out-of-the-box creativity since it's reconfigurable. Like former President Obama had said in a very famous speech that the ability for essentially the Western world to thrive, he was talking particularly about the United States, but really applied to the entire Western world, was our ability to innovate, our ability to think in non-traditional ways. We are no longer a manufacturing center, right? We need to be able to come up with ideas that we're going to be able to solve for problems that are unprecedented. One thing I did want to mention is that following this lecture series, Animation Israel will be putting together one-on-one workshops. There'll be small groups of up to 10 where we'll actually help you workshop your stuff. So you'll get this information. You can go back and further develop your shows. But please email us. It's info@animationisrael.com and let us know if you're interested, and we'll try to set you up with one-on-one sessions to actually get some hands-on feedback on your shows. So this is the way the world ended up looking in the most recent deck. And it's quick and it's punchy again, keeps the tone. Like Mika's felt self lives in a felt world. Well, it sometimes takes perseverance and asking for help. She can solve almost anything that comes her way by using her ability to rethink, repurpose, and rebuild. Oh, she calls it felt Legoing. Mika's world is always changing because she can change it. You already feel that it's an empowering show for kids, that the kids aren't at effect, they're in control. Well, you can see that she's popped stuff out of her wall and she's doing her thing. Her felt world is not only as squishy and soft as she is, so you feel the cuteness of the show, but it's also symbolic. It's safe to try new extraordinary things, to make mistakes and to keep going. Mika, with Mo by her side, knows she will always bounce back. There was also a study out about 2 years ago that risk-taking in girls is going down. Like, it is the metric of all the metrics they study for kids that's going down most prevalently year after year. So it was important for me that have a girl lead and have her taking risks that she could bounce back from. So in your world, you'll have characters. And so, I'm presenting these things to you in the order that they actually appear in the deck. So the characters bring your show to life through their actions, through what they do. They must be memorable, dynamic, and the audience needs to connect with them. Remember when I told you we started without pupils, and one of the broadcasters said, hey, if you put pupils in, it actually helps, kids really attach themselves to them and connect with your character. So we added that in later. But some key questions for character development is, why are they special? Like, why is Mika special? Why is Mo special? Why are these different from the thousands of characters who are already out there? What makes them special? What's their relationship to each other, their world, life in general? Are they grumpy? Are they sad? Are they scared? Are they happy? Are they fearless? Like, you need to kind of know these things. And what's important is what's the relationship to each other, I believe. What do they want? You know, do they want to have fun? Do they want to be safe? Do they want to help? What are they afraid of? You know, in Mo's case, he's afraid of everything, but he's got Mika's bravery to help him out. What do they look like? So in the 4th session, John Dusenbury is going to get into this more, but how does what they look like impact the tone and the feel and the sellability of your show? This goes from everything from size, shape, color, and it does depend partly on the age of your audience. You'll see often younger shows have kind of like shorter, rounder characters, and older shows have more elongated characters, and features often have like mixed composition, kind of mixed pairing. So you'll see, and John's going to get into this more in session 4. Do they have props? Do they have costumes? Do they have vehicles, powers, magic, key sayings, best buddies, pets, tech devices? These are all kinds of things to think through. And they don't need to have any of these. So don't just load up your show. Everything should always be organic to your show. How many characters and what roles? So is this a duo? Within the duo, are they fairly equal powered, or is one kind of the lead? Like in Mika and Mo, Mika's the lead. She's the main character, but Mo's a quick second. Is it an ensemble? So you'll have main characters. You may have minor characters. You may have recurring characters, one-offs, characters that are in every episode but aren't main. So you got to figure out your characters. For the purposes of a Bible, well, just to get a partner, I would definitely focus on your main characters. If you need some like minor characters, like for example, Mika and Mo, each episode they go into, like when they dive into the felt world, they meet someone else. Like there's one where Mika's afraid to put her head in the water, and she ends up essentially swimming with the dolphins, and Mo ends up with a fish. So they make new friends in that particular world. So each episode they're making new kind of one-off friends. Other shows may have, every character has a pet. So those are kind of like their sidekicks. You'll figure out what your characters are. At least have your main characters solid before you go out to pitch. So characters should be nuanced yet consistent within themselves. For example, Mo is hesitant. He may act brave for a moment, but he always goes back to his true nature. And that's okay. It's part of him. Mika is fearless. She may consider Mo's concerns, even temporarily take them on, but she always goes back to being brave and bold. So you need to know who your characters are, and whatever lesson they learn, their core traits still need to be theirs. One item that I want to make sure I note is that your characters in animation do not age. Like think of The Simpsons. It's been on for, 25 years or maybe more or less. They're all the same age. So Mika will always be a 6-year-old girl. Mo will always be a 3-year-old hamster. So this is what the character sheets look like in the most recent deck. You can already see, even without any words, you can see that there's love between these characters, that he looks up to her. You know, you can feel their vibe. And it's just a quick one-liner on Mika. She's energetic, inquisitive, bold, adventure-seeking 6-year-old girl. Meet Mo. He's none of these things, and not just because he's a hamster. So you already know that they have this odd couple kind of yin and yang going on. I'm not going to read all the rest to you, but I wanted to make sure you saw that in an earlier deck, there was a lot more information about the characters, and I actually recommend that you do more, not less. You know, so in the most recent deck, like I showed, it's really snippets. It's a lighter deck, but that's because we are further down the process and people already knew our show, and we're like kind of waiting to figure out who would be the best partner. And also because we already knew our show. In order to know the show, it really takes about a page of information about each character and probably an image or some information about the relationship between the characters. So structure and key elements. So again, Carolyn and Andrew will go deeper into this in session 3, but every show has a structure, and most, at least preschool shows, have key elements. And honestly, most older shows do too. So structure is what happens when in a show. And key elements tend to be, or actually in structure touches on them too, that's why I put them together, the devices or the repeatable moments. So the first question to answer is, what kind of a show do you have? Is this a problem-solving show? Like something happens, they need to solve for it. Is it a call for action, like help? It's like a superhero type show. Is it wish fulfillment where, oh, I wish I could, you know, climb to the moon and I'm gonna make a ladder to the moon? Is this a how-to show? There are varying kinds of shows. What kind of show is yours? And that will help inform your structure and which key elements. So back to Mika and Mo, you guys are gonna be able to sell my show better than I can by the end of this because I'm walking you through every part. But the structure is, every episode starts at Mika's house. Could be in her playroom or in the backyard or in the kitchen, but it always starts at her house. And then Mika and Mo encounter an issue. From that issue, they felt up a non-traditional vehicle. It could be a spaceship. It could be a pogo stick for two, a skateboard with a sail. This is not a car or a truck. So they felt cobbled stuff together. The skateboard could have a piece of their fence for the base and oranges for wheels, but they cobble something together and take off. And to get to the issue, there they meet new friends. Like I just used the dolphin and fish example. They use felt Lego to solve for their issue. Oh, they're unsuccessful 2 times in their solving. They try, it doesn't work. They try something bigger, it doesn't work. Then they learn something and they try something even bigger and it works, okay? Then they transport home. The felt Lego returns to where it came from. So there's an element of cleanup, which parents would love. And there's a lesson in there for kids. And then Mika and Mo get to do what they set out to do. An example of this, it's like Mika's making birthday cake for Mo in her kitchen. It has to be coconut cream icing because that's the best icing ever. She's being crazy Mika. She pushes the blender on high because with Mika's world, there's no low or medium. The blender blows up, this coconut cream all over the place, and that was the last coconut. So, you know, they put together some safari vehicle powered by balloons, get to the jungle, and Mika finds this cheeky monkey running around with a coconut. It's like the last coconut. She can't find a coconut anywhere. So how do you negotiate with a monkey? So she felts herself up a monkey suit. So she now looks like a monkey. She felt Legos up a giraffe and climbs up a giraffe. Anybody else would use a ladder, but Mika has to climb up a giraffe. So now she's eye to eye, looking like a monkey, negotiating with a monkey for this coconut. She eventually gets the coconut. They go home. She makes the icing, you know, and all the felt Lego returns to where it was. She makes the icing. Mo has a wonderful birthday with the world's best cake. But so that's kind of the way that works. But is that structure for every episode? It does not vary. There's a problem. They fill out Lego a non-traditional, quirky vehicle. They get there. They have some issues. They solve for it. They go back home. The Lego goes back to where it was. Mika and Mo have fun. Their key elements. That like I said, there's this innovative construction moment where they're making something that no grown-up would think of. While they're doing it, and I'll show you how this works, before the different pieces pop out for Mika to cobble them together, there's almost like a Where's Waldo moment where, what's she gonna make now? Which keeps kids like engaged, like trying to figure it out. Each of her things, she does put on this little bit of Mika flair. Like it's not enough that it's a safari vehicle powered by balloons. It has to have streamers, or it has to have sparkles, or it needs like a bumper sticker that says Mika and Mo on it. Like there's something she needs for it to just have her signature on it. And of course, felt is a key element. So to show you how this is in the deck, it's not called structure in the deck. It's called how an episode works. It feels a lot lighter. You know, but it's exactly what I said. They're having fun when they run into a problem. Mika uses her imagination and supplies around her. She felt Legos up a creative method to go investigate the problem. So she needs some transportation to get there. Once there, Mika and Mo, and sometimes a third or fourth character, because they meet friends there in this new world, they team up and they try to come up with solutions. And then they come home and they complete what they started and have fun. For the key elements, again, they're not called key elements. They're called Mika and Mo must have. So she's got this little satchel that has all these, when I'm talking about Mika flair, where she can put her bumper sticker on or her streamers or sparkles or what have you. This Where's Waldo moment comes from when she kind of does these like little hand goggles, and you can see it's almost like I Spy, and as she looks at items, they light up. So these are key elements I haven't seen in other shows before she kind of pops them out and puts together her Lego solutions. And Mo's gone back and forth. Mo originally had a book, which me being an author, I preferred. Us being in a technological age, it got changed for him having a tablet where he could always kind of be nerdy and looking up stuff and sort of being the timid yet brains of the operation. And this is an image showing you how Mika kind of does with her fingers, does the goggles. You can see the helmet popped out there, a fastener / button for the helmet pops out there. You can see the items. You don't quite know what she's going to do with them until they come together. So I'm going to move on now to episodes. Sorry, it's a lot of talking. We will have time for questions. The episodes are really the storylines where with your characters and world in action. So what are they doing and where? They include challenges, attempts, growth, and resolution. Each pitch deck should have at least fully described episodes with a beginning, a middle, and an end. In those episodes, you may have some key dialogue that shows the tone of the characters or their interactions between them, a learn or a moral, and a laugh if your show is meant to be funny. And each episode should be about a page, but a page including art. So it's not a full 8.5 by 11 page. Ideally, you'd have 3 to 5 additional episode summaries that are just a few sentences each. And possibly name your episodes to match your show's tone. Like Mika's a silly, fast-paced show. So one episode is called Monkeying Around, another one's Dolphins Play. Like they have kind of episode tones, but they're not exactly the same. It's not like Friends where you're talking about the one about, the one about Ross and Rachel. So these have, but just kind of think about it. It's another avenue to express your tone of your show is through how you name your episodes. Ideally, you'd include a pilot script. I know not everybody pitching is a writer. It is not required at this level, but more and more broadcasters are saying, okay, do you have a script? Okay, do you have a script? I'm always hesitant because I know how much work goes into writing a script to tell anybody to write a script for a first pitch. So I think until you start getting some, hey, can we see more? You might want to hold off on the script, but in your perfect world, when you're really going out with a full package, you would have at least one script and possibly a demo, which of like showing how your show actually works and comes together. Keep in mind, preschool is silly, physical, funny, not jokes, not verbal. They just don't get them. And it's never mean, okay? Older shows, so once you get into 6 to 11 or even older, like sarcasm is okay, or wit is okay, or puns, but not in the preschool space. Multiple season shows may expand by adding new characters, a pet, a newly discovered location. These kinds of things help generate more stories, but all the time staying true to your original show identity. You could do 1,000 episodes of Mika and Mo. It will always be about a fearless girl and her timid hamster, their loving relationship between them, and how they balance each other out, and how they have creative kid logic ways to solve and change their world. Characters learn, like I said, but they do not age. Again, your 6-year-old character stays 6. So this is how the episodes looked in the original deck, where I was fortunate enough to be able to, through Big Jump, get some concept art so people could kind of have a look for, hey, this is what Mika looks like when she's monkeyed up in a suit and she's bartering with a monkey, and she got the felted up bananas and felted up monkey ears, and here are her boots, and she felted up a giraffe to get up to the monkey. When I was originally pitching, and honestly, most of my shows, I'm not able to go out with this much art because I am not a designer. So this is where it comes in. That's very good if you could partner with a studio in order to further your projects. And if you can't, I have another project in the market right now. I, again, purchased concept art that I directed from the same artist that did the Mischief concept art. And I just went out with 3 characters three characters together. My kid made a brand new font logo for it, and we went out like that, and it's been very well received. So don't break the bank on concept art. Make sure you have enough to have the tone of your show across. If you do end up having a studio attached at a later point, that is something that they should be bringing to the table. So here's another one. This is the dolphin play one. You can see that there's this light felt feeling. She's now a mermaid. She has the crown on. You very much get the tone of the show. So we just have a few things left, and then we're going to open up for questions. Curriculum is one thing that comes up a lot. What is a curriculum, and do I need one? So curriculum is linked to the viewer's age and to your broadcaster. I'll get into that more in a second. There are many kinds, and it is not always required. So does your show need curriculum? If your show is for 6 and under, the answer is probably yes. It's more likely yes than no. So, and it depends on the broadcaster, and different broadcasters need different curriculums and also different financiers. So there's a show that I have right now that may be financed by a organization that deals with girls in engineering. So they have a very distinct mission for how they want to, what kind of shows they want and what kind of curriculum, what they want to be teaching. Curriculum is a very big word for what is the learn, right? And the learn can be social, emotional. Are the characters learning to deal with stress? Are they learning to share? Are they learning to nice to each other? Are they learning to listen? Are they learning to be inclusive? That kind of all falls under social, emotional. STEAM is a big thing here, but only specific broadcasters really dive into it. It's more the public broadcasters. So STEAM stands for science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. There's environmental. Again, certain broadcasters go to this more than others. Like, for example, National Geographic or a Discovery Channel may be more likely to be there as opposed to Disney, which may be less. Are these language acquisition shows? Are they learning a show? Is this a religious show like Veggie Tales? It looks mainstream, but it has like a piece of the New Testament in each show for its learn. Are these how-to shows? Are these health habits shows? Are these shows about cleanliness, about brushing your hair, about hygiene? Is this shows about music where they're learning different musics or different kinds of music, different musical instruments, different pacing, volume? Like what is the show about? Whatever it is, please make sure that it's organic to your show. So you should be thinking about your curriculum before you start. This is not something you get slapped on at the end. Otherwise, it looks very obvious that it got slapped on the end. And it should be something that you care about. Like, I care about girls and risk taking. I'm not the biggest risk taker. It is something that I wish I had more, and something that even as a grown-up, I'm building in myself, and something that I want to impart on this new generation. This is something I really care about. So it's fun for me to write a show with a strong, fearless girl lead. It is empowering for me as the writer, and it's something I get excited about each time. So if your curriculum is like, oh my gosh, now I have to write about physics and I have to learn physics to write about physics, you're not going to enjoy this process, right? Who creates the curriculum? This is a specialty within show development. So at the pitch deck stage, I usually write either nothing or write a page or two about the curriculum, depending on the kind of show. So once a show gets launched, the broadcasters will likely assign a specialist in curriculum development, and they will write a whole kind of deck specific to the curriculum. But a basic short curriculum is sufficient for a pitch deck, or even no curriculum, depending on where you're sending this. And just some examples, because I think curriculum is new to many people on this call. But Doc McStuffins, the curriculum is about nurturing. She heals her stuffies, right? Daniel Tiger is social skills, and self skills, like take a breath and let it out, taking a breath before reacting, getting over being shy. Peg plus Cat, you can even tell in the title, it's a show about math, and the background all has grid paper. So its look and feel is a fun play on the curriculum. Paw Patrol is about helping and empowerment. What is it? No job is too big, no pup is too small, right? There's nothing that, like, everybody has a way to help, right? Sid the Science Kid is clearly about science, and it's about hands-on physical science like friction, and he learns it through the way his shoes move on different surfaces. Like it's a fun show about science. Wild Kratts is about nature and the environment. Bo and the Go is about physical fitness. Ready, Jet, Go is about outer space. Mika and Mo is about out-of-the-box thinking and girl risk-taking. So every show has a curriculum under it for this demographic. For older stuff, like again, I'm talking about 6 to 11 tends to not have a curriculum, but they still have a moral. They'll still have a theme. They'll still have a heart. It could be a show just about family, you know, or about caring, or about friendship, or about teamwork. There's still something underneath. They just don't call it curriculum. Even The Simpsons. The Simpsons is a show about family. It's even called The Simpsons. It's got all their weirdness, all their quirkiness. In the end, they always come together as a family. Music. Do I need music for my show? Unless your show is a music show, you do not need music for your initial pitch. But it's always fun and it indicates tone. So if you have it, or your best friend's a musician, or if you are, feel free to include it. It's fun. Some things to keep in mind. Singing characters, as opposed to background music, may pose dubbing issues for international distribution. So I'm not saying you can't do a show with singing characters. You know, Disney does them all the time, but just keep it in mind that there may be a dubbing issue. And broadcasters vary as to what degree music is needed in a show. Disney Junior is definitely pro music. So if I were pitching something to Disney Junior, I would either have a friend of mine make up what I thought would be like a good theme song, or like for the tone of the show, or I'd grab some already existing music and put together kind of just like a mini tone clip reel. Like, hey, this is what I think is the vibe of my show, but I wouldn't necessarily pay for music at this stage. Like I said, sample music is okay to indicate tone. You don't need original. Transmedia and toys. So this really just shows that is your show commercially viable, kind of beyond licensing and distribution of the show. So like, what are the brand extensions? And keep in mind, not all shows lend themselves to licensing and merchandise. So don't force it. Make sure it's organic to your show. I keep getting back to this. The curriculum should be organic. If you're going to put music, have it organic. Like, it needs to all fit, not try to look like you're trying to put a round peg in a square hole. And it's optional. You do not need it for your initial pitch. I'm going to show you a toy proposal. Mika and Mo was actually developed kind of hand in hand with Moose Toys. The company did, not hand in hand, but very with a lot of advisement from Moose Toys. The company did Shopkins. So what we did is we actually created some like pseudo Lego sets, so out of felt, so they could kind of have a vision for what this may look like. We did, okay, here are what the pieces could look like. This is what it would look like if you put it together according to the rules. And then here's another way, and you get like alternate rules. Like, okay, now you can use the fence as a basket. You can use a tree for the top of the hot air balloon, and they can escape, right? So there's kind of alternate ways to play with the play set. Same one here, and each one goes to an episode. There's a space, so they're playing on space, but the hockey post can become a Range Rover, or you can mix and match between the play sets, where now she has her house plus a hockey net plus a spaceship, and you could kind of combo in very much the way Lego works. So we were trying to get across what that means in terms of toys, how this show translates to toys. Again, back to concept art. Before I had a studio, and with most other shows, I would just take, okay, this is a show about felt. What felt products already exist in the toy world? What kinds of apps exist in the toy world? What major brands have already done something with felt to show that, hey, this is something people are doing? We have Sesame Street, we have Peppa the Pig, right? What kinds of software here make felt movies? What else is out there in the felt realm to show that, hey, I didn't just make this up. Felt is something you can actually sell to the world. So with that, I Googled felt toys, and I got over 20 million results, or YouTube has over 2 million felt for kid videos. So this is actually a real kind of toy product that can exist. I did not pay for this. I put this together based on some easily accessible research. Your contact information will go on the last page of of your deck. Think of it like a little business card, but it's not a business card for you, it's a business card for your show. So you could put your tagline back on it, or a version of it, the name of the show, a piece of art, ideally with your characters or something from the world, who to contact, your studio if you have it, and that's the pitch inside scoop. It's a lot of talking. Hope you enjoyed and you're able to get it down. I would love to, I'm going to stop sharing so that I can get to your questions.
So I'll read them out for you.
Okay, cool.
That was great, Anne-Marie. Thank you.
Thanks, Annie.
There is a lot of graphics in your deck. How would you recommend writers with limited budgets to go about conveying the visual message?
Got it. So I would get, at the very, very least, I would get character concept art. So if you can't draw it yourself, I would buy it. I can show you, let me just show you something quickly so you can see how rough my initial deck was for.
I will throw in a couple my 2 cents as well. I mean, we come from a point where you develop a project, and there's a lot of investment at the beginning of it. So you need to invest a lot in the writing, a lot in the preparations, as you saw from the deck and from the overview. And there is a lot of work and money and time invested in this. So again, you need to find a way that you equally work on all aspects of the project, of the pitch, because it's not obvious exactly what everyone is looking for. So essentially, I mean, you might be coming with an entire, like a great big pack. I mean, people mentioned that they are even looking for POCs, for proof of concepts, which is another thing we'll be talking about maybe in the future progress. But when it comes to a deck, the bigger, the more concise it is, the more developed it is when it comes from the script, and as many designs that you have, the better. But with the limited budget that we have while developing, that might be an issue. So you need to mainly, I would say, from my perspective, is to at least have one visual from each aspect that you are talking about, from the designs. If it's a character, especially your main character, but also a visual of the world, and maybe some visuals of like the theme of, for example, the felt theme.
Yeah, and I'll just show you what I had when I went in with Mika and Mo, but this is honestly what I believe to, let's see if I can do this again. It may not, here we go. This I believe is to be the bare minimum of what I would go in. I went in with character design. Like I would not go in with anything less. And even with this character design, because I had them wearing hats, I had him do like one character and then, threw on an extra 5% to the fee and had them put hats on each of them. And then the rest of the deck was concept art that I had kind of taken, but that's the minimum. I would not, I think if you're going into pitch with no art for an animated show, you're at a massive disadvantage. That is where partnerships come in. So I know that there are writers on this call. I encourage you to partner with designers. I know there are designers on this call who, writing's not their favorite thing to do. Partner with writers. See who you can partner to share your show, or figure out who you can buy some concept art from. And I do believe that the characters are more important than the world for this stage. And as much as you can, limit how much money you put into it. Because this is a risky business, and we do the best we can. Right?
One of the another questions that we have is, what is the difference in financial viability for animations in YouTube, film festivals, mainstream productions? I think it's a tough question. I would say that if I'm understanding this correctly, you're asking like, what is the difference, like when you develop a deck, how in depth you need to create it for YouTube or for mainstream productions? That's the difference you're asking about? Whoever asked this?
Well, I think once you're at the festival level, unless I'm misunderstanding this question, your deck is less important. Like the deck is really to get a partner, particularly for the writers or for animators who don't have a staff on their studio, to get a partner to invest in you or to partner with you so that you can get either a demo made, you know, or get your show made so that you can present the show, not the deck.
It actually brings, connects to the other questions that we're getting now is, how can I consult? How marketable is my idea? How can I evaluate what my idea is, if my idea is appealing or, and if my idea is worth development? Again, I think it's a tough question. It's the
$1 billion question, you know, that is the question.
You don't know what to develop in, honestly. I mean, you go with your instincts, you go with your experience. Anne-Marie has been traveling and been working around with many companies. From my, not my experience as well, it's about finding the right partner, finding the right person to invest in your project, and learning the industry. Okay, that's something that I feel that in Israel we need to start learning more. We see ourselves in Israel bubble, and you need to understand that there's an entire world out there that is looking for something specific at a certain time, or there is something specific at that specific broadcaster. You need to learn the people before you approach them, or before you just say, I have an idea. You need to aim it in the right direction. So it's okay to have an idea for teens, and it's a great idea to have for preschool, but you need to know who you need to talk to. So people like Anne-Marie is a great person to consult, for example, about.
I think to that point, there is an element of seeing how much you can get done for the least amount of money, time, and effort, right? Because there is an element of lottery here. So all that being said, what I'm showing you is pretty much the minimum to go to market. So I haven't shown you, hey, here's a trailer, here's a sizzle reel, or here's my script. Let's walk you through the 16-page script, right? I'm saying this is what you need to put together in order to have the conversation. If you want to be at the table to have that conversation, you need to have something. It doesn't need to be tons of art about the world. There's a show I'd love to show you. It's in negotiations right now, but honestly, I have the 3 main characters on the front page, the title created with my name, but the art is so good. Like I can say that because I didn't draw it. It's so captivating that you get the show by what these characters look like. And then each page of the characters, I use the same art, right? Like I may have grabbed the flower out of one of their hair to put a border around it so it looks like, oh, the screen looks like it has something on it, and I put the character on wrote next to it. Okay, and the same. So that's already 4 pages off of the one piece of art that I've paid for. I've got the cover page with the 3 characters. I have each of the 3 characters' pages, splitting them out, right? So I'm already like a third of the way of my deck with this one purchase. The transmedia and toys, all of that is clip art. So I got that essentially for free, right? So you got to figure out how you can then use your smarty brain, right, to get as far into this as you can with spending as little money, because you're going to need your time and your energy and money to actually market your stuff and to get it polished. And that's why I'm telling you, and you can come or not come, but that's one of the things that Amit and I plan to provide after this 4-week lecture series, or these one-on-one workshops to help workshop your pitch deck so that they're strong decks and that they're presentable to get you into the right conversation.
Another question we had, which is, I think it's very relevant. Is this deck a presentation, or is it a book, or how is it something physical that you hand out? How would you define the deck that you just presented?
Okay, so normally the way a deck is, and I can maybe, because I cut and pasted it together, but if I'll look at the chat, see if you want, I can show you the decks start to finish, kind of how they hold together. But when I send them to someone, I send them as PDF files so that everybody can open them. And when I'm meeting with someone, yeah, I bring my laptop or my iPad, but usually we don't go through the whole thing. We'll stop on, like if I'm talking about an episode, I'll stop on the art for that episode. Or if I'm talking about the characters, like I had a meeting with Mattel. It was my last meeting before COVID, so I won't forget it. Like it was like the last meeting on Earth. And I had the pictures of the character art for this new show that I have with them. And we never got off that first page because it was a discussion. So when I'm face to face, I'm really not looking at my deck unless I need it for a specific visual. I'm not sitting there reading the deck to them. It's based on how they react to my deck, react to the conversation, whether or not I send them the deck, or in times like now, or in times when geography doesn't permit, then I will send them the PDF and I'll write in the email like a sentence, not 20 sentences, because nobody wants to read a long email, like, hey, like almost like a shorter version of the elevator pitch. Like, this is my show. This is what it's about. This is why I think it's a good fit for your studio or your broadcaster. And this is who referred me. And so in your case, you'd say, hey, Anne-Marie and Amit from Animation Israel referred us to you. Because otherwise, like they're bombarded. Like I try to say who referred me, or at this point, they know who referred me because that person referred me 12 years ago or 15 years ago. But at least while I was starting, and for all my new contacts, I still get new contacts all the time. Who referred me, a quick little summary and why it's a good fit for them, you know. And it used to be where you'd kind of take a show, and part of it is that my understanding of the industry has changed, but part of it, I think the industry has changed, not just my understanding of it, where you just kind of get your show ready and you send it to as many people and hope for the best, like more is better, and that increased your odds. At this point, I don't do that. And so if you do end up working with Animation Israel and we send it to 2 places and you're upset that we sent it to 2 places, we send it to 2 places because those were the 2 best fit places for your show. Like my new show, I honestly sent it to 2 places.
I will add something in addition. I mean, the deck is the, I mean, in the old terms, it's a Bible, okay? It's how you build your show, okay? It's essentially part of the development process, but it's the process that you're going to present to someone, okay? That is a piece, a physical piece. It could be, you could print it out if you want nicely. For example, Gili Dolev, an amazing director and animator, he created a deck which is for Zack and Quack at the time, made out of pop-up because it's part of the presentation. It's part of his toolkit. But when I go, for example, to an event, I present it on an iPad, and I don't show all the text because it's a lot of writing, and you need them to focus on you while you're presenting, while you're pitching your show.
Yeah.
Create out of your deck, create a presentation, which is the visuals, which is part of the work that you've invested your time and your money into, but you create something separate for it. And that's the thing that you present. Now, there was a guy that I met called Andrew Davis from Studio Moshi in Australia, who mentioned that he changes the deck as you go along. So you meet someone, okay, and then he says, "Oh no, I just heard that this guy is looking for 7 to 9 age group." Oh, okay, so you change it in your deck, and that's how he presents it. So I mean, essentially, you work on the deck while you're meeting with people, but oriented. You need to find different aspects of the physical and the presentation terms, so you can work varied on a different when you meet new people.
With that, there's a bit of a dance, right? In terms of when do I present my deck, right? When in the process, and this was the question for Disney, like when in the process do we bring them in? And that's why I'm saying this is kind of the minimum, but you want to get as far as you can. You want to bring them in as early as you can in the process while still presenting a professional front for yourself and for your show.
Another question that came up, I'm trying to answer him now. But
I know, I'm watching it.
How can I pitch an idea without using it without me? I think that the biggest question, the answer is you can't. I mean, a show needs a creator. A show the creator is part of your show. I think that that's part of the power that we bring to the table. As you know, you talk to a person, you try to convince him, you present the show to someone. The show is part of you, so you can't usually present it without. I think first of all, you present it with yourself, with pitching the show, and then you can send them the deck that you worked on after they've heard you say it. Maybe, Anne-Marie, you have a different opinion, but
yeah, I don't always agree to that. Like, so there are a couple of things, and yeah, like what I'm saying, they're buying you. Like, look at how Mischief switched to Mika and Mo. Look how it was like a portal show from CGI to felt, and then became just felt. I went 2D, 3D. Like, there's not a lot that's left from the original show. They bought the concept and they bought me because they want a creator attached to it to drive the train, right? These are studios that tend to have lots of projects. And if they do every project themselves, all their projects are gonna have the same look and feel and the same sentiment. They want a creator who knows the project, owns the project, feels the project to bring in, you know, the real vibe of the project and see it through. So they, more than anything, they bought me and my love for Mika and Mo and the freedom of felt for risk-taking. That's what they bought, and we teamed up and we went from there. I would not be too afraid about people stealing your project if that was part of the question. And yes, projects can be pitched without you there. It's much more difficult, but that's part of why Amit and I founded Animation Israel, is that if, for example, say half the people on this Zoom do not have access to jump on a plane, sit in quarantine for 4 weeks, and then go, you know, or for 14 days. Sorry, I've made it even worse. But like, first off, right now it's kind of good because nobody has access, right? So the playing field is very much leveled. Like, conferences aren't happening except on Zoom. So it really doesn't matter where you are. But in general, when it does matter where you are, that is why Animation Israel had an open call, and we took on a couple of projects so that we can pitch on those creators' behalf. And that's one of the services we provide to the Israeli creative community. So when y'all can't get to these conferences, we can help represent your projects for you. Or we can make the email introductions where we say, hi, I know this creator. This is a good project. This is a project that I've helped polish. Will you please take a look at it? So to send something cold out into the world, yeah, it's very unlikely you will get any response at all. Oh, but we're here to help with that service.
I think that's it for now. Wait, there was maybe at the beginning a couple of questions. Yeah, no, I think we answered most of the questions. Again, viability, financial viability. How do you determine that the market your animation is geared towards? Like, again, it's a lot coming from experience. You need to, how do you know which target audience is your animation project? That's part of the development process, I guess. That's part of understanding who are you approaching, how are you developing, what kind of kid, essentially, you know. And working with clients, they say, yeah, we want to get to everyone. But when it comes to the TV industry or to the children industry, you need to focus on a target audience. You need to focus onto an age group that varies very much according to what Anne-Marie said. So you need to learn about that. You need to to learn from examples, to watch shows. I mean, I'm addicted to kids shows, so that's part of the fun of developing for that kind of content as well. So yeah, that was that.
So each network has its brand, and many of them, at least the public broadcasters, have on their websites what they're looking for and what their charter is. Like if you go to the CBBS, like to the BBC Kids stuff, it says there what they want and what they don't want. But also with that, you need to partner with a studio that's had a show on the BBC. So that's where, you know, you need to, or we would need to help you with getting a studio in the UK. They don't take blind submissions. Like for me, I don't send my stuff to the BBC. There are 2 studios I like in Scotland, which have both worked with the BBC. I partner with one of them and have them send it through. So it's not just, okay, you're in Israel, you don't know who to send it to. There are different channels you go through, and that's part of what Animation Israel is here to help with. We are really here to help bring your projects to the world market and help bring the world to Israel. So again, the easiest way to get in touch with us is through info@animationisrael.com. If you're interested in being part of this workshop to polish your pitch decks, we're putting that together. We will cap it at 10 attendees, so please let us know. Oh, but there is very big importance of having strong writing and strong art. So we can help kind of, I'm more the writing side and Amit's more the art side, so we can help guide you in that as well, so you can kind of get the biggest bang for your buck and get something professional that you're proud to share.